The trial of Dr. George Blumenshine.
We had charged her with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and the deadly weapon was...
Trial, the prosecution argued that Anna had tried to kill her lover after throwing his longtime girlfriend, Dr. Yvette Tony. Meanwhile, in an effort to... The defense suggested that the woman George had cheated on had just as much opportunity and an even better motive to want him dead.
Sure, Kate. As her lawyer tells her, that Tony knew that this relationship was going on, or at least strongly suspected it.
Which had the jury believe.
When I get there.
See the jury, each time the defendant Anna Maria Gonzalez Angulo guilty of aggravated assault.
The guilty verdict stunned the defense.
All of us collectively felt like we got punched in the gut.
But no one was more shocked than Anna.
I think she thought she was getting away with it. Because her whole life she
I need help.
was an
Dudes
smart person in
robbed
school,
Taylor, they've been heading to the power station.
and she was a star in Indiana.
However, when the trial shifted to the sentencing phase, the world-renowned scientist not only faced a possible life sentence, she also had one last chance to avoid prison altogether.
She was eligible for the jury to give her probation.
In the penalty phase, Anna's attorneys argued that the brilliant cancer researcher belonged in her lab, not behind bars.
We felt like she was an ideal probation candidate.
To prove their point, they put a series of the doctor's patients on the stand.
It was very emotional. We heard from women who had suffered through breast cancer.
I've been fighting this since 1995, and I wouldn't be here today without her.
The patients that testified on our behalf in the penalty phase belong to me.
But would the emotional testimony from her former patients make a difference when the jury announced its decision on September 29th?
She ended up being sentenced to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine.
The defense considered that.
They could have Spider-Man.
However, for the prosecutors, the fact that the world-class cancer research got little served time and not have a
Down to 64%.
Maybe Patricia and Neil Olson married. Their friends figured the couple was destined for a long and happy life together.
They were a good couple. I just don't want to spend the rest of my life with her.
And as it turned out, he did.
His skull had been crushed.
Was it Patricia's troubled son?
He was pissed off at his stepdad and snapped.
Was she?
The mother using her two children as a weapon.
Or would there be an entirely innocent explanation?
A horse could indeed cause us abuse.
Spider-Man! Wait! Spider-Man was down that elevator shaft.
Lanesboro, Massachusetts, January 10th, 2005. It was a cold winter morning in this picturesque community nestled in the Berkshire Hills.
When you think of the Berkshires, you think of cute Romanian towns, Rockford,
The white steepled church, happy families, good times.
But that Monday morning, the Lanesboro family definitely wasn't having a good time. The caller was 41-year-old Patricia Olson.
She sounds frantic.
Spider-Man, wait!
She's out of control. She says that she's just discovered that her husband is dead.
The first officer on the scene was the tiny town's chief of police.
Stopping
When he
crime
gets
before
there,
it
he
begins.
directs him to the barn,
We're only 2
where her
minutes.
husband is lying in a pool of blood.
And as soon as the chief walked into the barn, he had no doubt that 48-year-old Neil Olsen was dead.
His skull had been thrown.
And in the wall, skitishly circling around the body, was Neil's horse, Hannah.
The horse was pacing back and forth. It seemed upset by the whole situation.
And not without reason. After all, it appeared that the horse had just killed her owner.
Based on the injuries that you saw at that point, you determined that Neil had simply been strangled by the horse.
But would the answer be that simple? Or was a darker truth about Patricia's marriage hiding in what appeared to be an accident?
Any idea?
What?
So output's at 0.
I got that.
Pulling up an emergency
Born in
light.
1963,
Okay.
Vermont native
Give me
Patricia
some
Lynette
power.
Hall
Charge
had an
that
overachieving
backup.
childhood.
She's a very intelligent person. She graduated from high school at 16.
But for all her early promise, the precocious teen's life soon took a surprising turn.
She ended up married at 18.
How many people does it
Her
take to
son,
test the
Christopher
powers?
Robinson, was born in 1984. A daughter, Amanda, was born 14 months later on Valentine's Day, 1986.
She had 2 children.
Amanda was born when Patricia's marriage ended in divorce.
When she divorced, her husband went to her first husband.
Primarily because he was better able to strip them financially than to stay at home mom.
She had no source of income. She had really nowhere to live. So just by osmosis, he had the kids.
In fact, it was hard enough for Patricia to get by alone. Without a college degree, she spent the next few years drifting from one low-paying job to another, eventually crossing over the state line into Massachusetts after landing an office job for a company in Pittsfield.
Patricia was like a secretary slash bookkeeper.
Okay.
And it was while working there that the 27-year-old first met Neil Olsen.
These guys keep talking about us.
7 years older than Patricia, Neil lived in the tiny village of Greensboro, where he operated a successful sign shop out of the barn on his property.
Any kind of signs magical, Neil was there. Everybody loved his work.
He was well liked, but the successful sign maker remained single. That is, until 1989, when he dropped off a sign board for the company Patricia worked for.
Serious.
And when he asked Patricia out, she immediately said yes.
He's this local guy. Everybody loves. Everybody adores. So business. He doesn't have any kids. He's got this dream come true. They were a good couple. They had everything going for them.
Patricia moved in with Neil and soon put her bookkeeping skills, lending a hand his sign sheet.
Patricia was the person who handled the finance.
And in May of 1994, almost 5 years after they met, Patricia and Neil were married.
The wedding was pretty
Need a
spectacular. Beside Neil's house and his barn and his garage, there was a large field. He had the field cleared, and the ceremony was performed in the field. Outdoors, down to earth. It was really nice.
But even if Patricia settled into life with Neil, there was still one thing missing. Her children, who still lived with their father.
They had visitation. They come for a weekend, play all day, and then go home when the weekend was over.
However, Patricia longed to see more of her children, and now that she was remarried and able to provide for them, she was determined.
Neil said, "We're going to fight to get him back."
The custody battle dragged on for several years.
That was quite the fight. It took a long time. It cost Neil a ton of money to do it.
And in June of 1998, Christopher and Amanda, those 13 and 12, finally moved in with their mother and Neil.
They were pretty first.
The children were happy to be living with their mother. Amanda in particular bonded with Patricia.
Amanda and her mother
And
at the beginning things were all
and in one instance, even a little dangerous.
when they first moved in, he thought crispy in the house said that cocaine tank.
Christopher's little sister was just as much of a handful.
What do you mean you're bumping your work?
Things like smoking, whatever.
And when little as a teenager took home in her bedroom.
What does he do? He takes the door off the hinges and he hides it. He's got no privacy.
In general, discipline ended up being Neil's job. After years of weekend visitation and competing with the children's father for their affection, Patricia had a hard time telling them no.
Patricia was unable to control the kids. He said,
He will not take the nonsense from her, as Patricia would.
And he never ceased to come up with novel punishments either.
There's one instance where Neil disciplines Christopher. He has him dig this huge hole. It takes him out of death. When he's done, Neil won't stop and says, I don't want you to fill it.
Neil's strict discipline drove a wedge between his stepchildren.
They resented Neil for his harsh discipline.
Especially Christopher. By high school, he'd embraced full-on adolescent rebellion.
Let's get out of here. Chris was a goth kid, you know, he wore black and painted his nails black and, you know, was really into that scene.
And that wasn't all the teen was into either.
He's doing cocaine. She knows he's drinking.
Needless to say, his grades suffered.
Chris was not in school at all.
And that led to his decision to drop out of school during his junior year.
Patricia, Neil, and Christopher agreed that he was not going to graduate. That's ready for him to leave school.
Great work.
But that can't be safe.
Guys and their boss.
He just couldn't hold it.
Not even for his mother. In 2003, just before she turned 40, Patricia had opened her own business.
She decides to fulfill a dream of hers, which is to open up a restaurant, Mrs. O's, right in town.
It was a surprise for you.
Oh, it was great. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Christopher worked there a few weeks, but eventually, even his mother had to let him go.
Christopher is a screw-up. He can do nothing.
And Neil, fed up with his stepson's ways, finally kicked the 19-year-old out of the house in October of 2004.
He ends up living in his car.
He was legitimately homeless. He would spend some nights at the restaurant. He would spend some nights in the dugout of a Little League field. Or he would spend nights in a motel.
By then, Amanda was gone too, living in an apartment just across the state line in upstate New York.
Around 2004, when Amanda turned 18, she was caught using cocaine in the house by
man.
and
Any
Neil gave her an
work
ultimatum at that time. You either buy Beverly's house or you get out. And she decided to get out.
Something
For better or worse, Patricia's children were grown and by New Year's 2005, she and Neil were back where they started, just the two of them, and Neil's horse. Coming up, could Neil's horse be innocent?
Horses don't shoot guns.
And who would be the most likely human suspect?
There's this volatile, very dangerous relationship.
What happens to your body language when your underarms are cared for? It shows. Our new Dove Advanced Hair Formula is effective in cutting skin, leaving underarms cared for and you more confident and carefree.
These are real people.
Not happy. You got their eczema under control. With less eczema, you can show more skin. So roll up those sleeves and help heal your skin from within with Dupixent. Dupixent is the first treatment in design that continuously treats your eczema or atopic dermatitis even between triggers. Dupixent is a biologic and not therapy. Many people taking Dupixent saw clear or almost clear skin and significantly less itch. Don't use if you're allergic to Dupixent. Serious allergic reactions can occur, including anaphylaxis, which is severe. Tell your doctor about new or worsening eye problems, such as eye pain or vision changes, or parasitic infection. If you take asthma medicines, don't change or stop without talking to your doctor. So help heal your skin from within and talk to your eczema specialist about Dupixent. If your financial situation has changed, you may be able to help.
At Chewy, we know feeling good comes first. That's why we offer veterinary diets, prescriptions, even top-funded medications customized for your pet, so you can get what they need to feel wonderful. Save 20% on your first prescription order at Chewy.com.
Ordering pizza with slice is a win. Use a personal pizzeria, leave a review. Free pizza fast.
Jennifer Lopez. She breaks barriers and redefines what's possible. And now, she's changing the game in skincare.
For 20 years, I dreamed about sharing my skincare secrets. And now I am. I work with the best found in my years of trying everything and turned it into J-Lo Beauty. This has everything I wanted to share with everybody, and I love hearing from women who've tried it. It's liquid gold. It's crazy. J-Lo Beauty is my labor of love, my skin. Are you ready to discover yourself?
Every Thursday on Bravo, Top Chef is the best reality show on television. Since we're totally recommend audiences can't get enough.
You want the second bite, you want the third bite.
Of delicious, riveting, foodie drama. Here we go. Catch up on the latest Top Chef Portland now. And tune in every Thursday at 8, only on Bravo. Now, back to Oxygen, True Crime, 24/7.
At 8:30 on the morning of January 10th, 2005, police in Tiny Lanesboro, Massachusetts received a frantic 911 call from 41-year-old Patricia Olson. And when the town's police chief arrived at the scene moments later, Patricia led him to the bar behind the house.
It was a pretty gruesome scene. Neil Olson's head was smashed in.
And circling around the body was Neil's horse, Hannah.
It did look like a horse had trampled Neil.
Considering what she told the chief, that's what Patricia suspected too.
Patricia talked about the horse and how sometimes a horse can kick.
So the chief carefully herded the skittish horse into an empty stall, away from Neil's body.
The horse was just
Now I know many of you
pacing back and forth.
show under someone.
Then, figuring that Neil's death was a tragic accident, the chief called the county coroner before heading back up to the house with Patricia to take her statement. Patricia told the chief that she'd last seen Neil at around 11 o'clock the night before, when he'd gone out to the bar to get Hannah bedded down for the night.
She was playing out.
Now I can already hear the villains among you.
While Neil was down the phone, Patricia said she had gone to bed.
Let's just stop right there and act. Why would the guy wait through the skies and ignore
anything, everything
entirely?
And according to Patricia, when she woke up the next morning, Neil wasn't in bed. Although she said that wasn't unusual. Patricia told the chief that Neil also and went to work fully retail shop.
Neil's sign shop was in the barn, so it was kind of normal for Neil not to be in the house at that hour.
So according to Patricia, She'd gotten up, made coffee, and made a quick call to the restaurant she ran in Lanesboro.
She called an employee of Mrs. O's, as was often the case, asked her to bring a breakfast sandwich for Neil.
And when the employee dropped off the sandwich a few minutes later, Patricia said she had taken it down to the barn for Neil, at which point her otherwise typical morning took a sudden, tragic turn.
According to Patricia's statement, she went down to bring the sandwich to Neil, and when she saw Neil, she dropped the sandwich, then went up to the house and called 911.
Then, after he finished taking Patricia's statement, the chief went back down to the barn to wait for the coroner.
Based on what Patricia accident caused by
it's totally believable.
Although, while he waited in the barn for the coroner, the chief started having doubts, especially when he took a closer look at Neil's horse.
You're dead! She was an old girl. Not sure that she could have gotten her feet up. I didn't have to kick it.
So the chief decided to take a closer look at Neil's body, too. And that's when he noticed something he'd missed the first time.
Neil
A horse could kill a man, but it couldn't go through his pocketbook. And as soon as he suspected foul play, the chief placed a call to the Massachusetts State Police. And when the state police arrived on the scene, they found something else scattered in the straw on the barn floor.
They found some shell casings.
Around 9 shell casings on the floor.
The spent .22 rounds immediately appeared suspicious to the investigators.
Horses don't shoot guns.
Although, since there was no way of knowing how long the shell casings had been there, and Neil had no visible gunshot wounds, it was tough to say whether the shells had anything to do with Neil's death. But then, when the state troopers looked behind the barn, they noticed something else.
Some footprints outside in the snow.
The footprints led away from the barn, and when the troopers followed them, they led to a surprising discovery, one that definitely had something to do with Neil's death.
They find a pipe, blood all over it.
There was more to this than just the horse trampling the owner.
They had a homicide on their hands.
Once they found what appeared to be a murder weapon, the state police investigators decided it was time to talk to Patricia.
They found her in the house. She was visibly upset, crying, cursing, and blaming Neil's death on the horse.
She indicated the horse was always a problem. I couldn't get near the horse to do anything to it.
In fact, she told the investigators that she'd already called someone to get rid of the horse for good.
She wanted the horse destroyed.
And that's when the investigators informed Patricia that the horse was innocent.
That this was not an accident, that it was in fact a murder.
Patricia appeared taken aback by the news.
She, in fact, said almost accusatorily to one of the police officers, "I thought you said the horse did this."
And if the horse didn't kill Neil, who did? Certainly not Patricia.
She painted a rosy picture of the relationship between herself and the deceased.
But was there anyone else who might want Neil dead?
They asked Patricia if Neil had any enemies or if she knew of anyone who might want to do this to him.
The only person Patricia could think of was an old friend of Neil's who had recently done some renovations on her restaurant.
They felt that he'd overcharged them, and they were actually going to sue this person, or were suing this person.
Granted, it didn't seem like much.
That was really all she could offer as far as a name of somebody Neil was having problems with at the time.
And the horse, innocent or not, Patricia still wanted it destroyed.
Patricia called the horse a bitch.
However, the investigators intervened, placing a call to a local equine rescue organization.
They needed an emergency
to take in the elderly horse.
The horse wasn't dangerous.
Although it had been through an ordeal. She was traumatized.